Hello students, welcome to another session of Biological Science digital class. Students, let us look at these pictures: sharpening of a pencil, grasping a doorknob, driving a car or driving or riding a bicycle or motorbike, running in a competition or casual running, a walk or jogging. All these actions we generally perform in our daily life. Performing these actions and any other physical action require well coordinated movements along with balanced postures. Isn't it, students? Does these actions look simple? No. Though they appear to be very simple movements or actions, they require a well coordinated movements and as well as a well balanced postures. Whenever we do any physical action or movement which requires three basic functions: movement, balance, coordination, work together. Now, working together of cells, tissues, organs, organ systems is called coordination. What does it mean? Working together of various organs and organ systems in a systematic manner to produce a proper response to a stimulus is called coordination. So, in order to lead a normal life, this coordination is very important from the cellular level to the organ system. Now, why the coordination is required and who will bring this coordination in our body? The coordination is required in order to maintain homeostasis, the proper functioning of cells to organ systems. If they work properly, then the homeostasis is maintained. If the homeostasis is maintained normally and properly, the normal functioning of living organisms takes place. Now, who will bring this coordination in living organisms? Now, there are two types of coordinating systems. So, there is exclusively a system called coordinating system. The coordinating system is also called as integrating system. Now, there are two coordinating systems in human body which will bring control and coordination among organs and organ systems. One is nervous system. So, this picture shows the human nervous system. So, this is one system which will bring control and coordination, and this is the picture which is showing a different endocrine glands in our body. So, in this picture different endocrine glands located at various places in our body. So, this system is called as endocrine system. So, these are the two systems, both nervous system and endocrine system will bring control and coordination in our body. The coordination which is brought by the nervous system is called nervous coordination or neural coordination. Similarly, the coordination which is brought by endocrine system with the help of chemical messengers called chemical coordination. These two work together to bring overall control and coordination among different organs and organ systems in our body. Now, students, look at these pictures. A person sweating when the conditions are hot and humid, generally we sweat, isn't it? And here in the second picture, when a cat see a live mouse, it start running after its mouse because mouse is its prey. Now, in this picture, a plant is growing towards the sunlight. Now, what all these pictures convey or represent? Sweating, running after a mouse, growing towards the sunlight. They are nothing but the responses shown by the living organism. So, this person showing response. What is the response shown by this person? Sweating. What is the response shown by the cat? Running after a mouse. And what is the response shown by this green plant? Growing towards the sunlight. So, these are nothing but the responses. So, different living organisms usually respond to the changes that occur in and around the living organisms. So, responding to stimuli. So, this phenomenon is called responding to stimuli. Let us know more about the responding to stimuli. Now, students, in this responding to stimuli, there are four terms which we need to know. Responding to stimuli, these are the four terms we need to know: stimulus, response, receptor, effector. What is stimulus? Stimulus is nothing but any slight detectable change in and around the living organism. So, that even slight change that occurs either outside the body or inside the body is called stimulus. If it is outside the body, that is called external stimulus. If it is within the body, that is called internal stimulus. So, stimulus makes us to react or makes us to respond. For example, if we touch a hot object, that hot object makes us to move our hand away from the hot object. So, that hot object is considered as the stimulus. So, here in this example, the hot object is present outside the body. So, that is called external stimulus. Similarly, if we feel thirsty or hungry, what shall you do, students? Yes, if we feel hungry, we shall eat some food, and if we feel thirsty, we drink water. So, here the feeling of thirsty or the feeling of hungry makes us to respond, to eat or to drink. So, the thirsty feeling or the hungry feeling is called stimulus, as it is produced within the body. So, that is called internal stimulus. So, this is stimulus. Next is response. What is response? Response is nothing but the action shown by the living organism to a particular stimulus. The way you behave or you act or you react to the stimulus. So, that is called response. The same example, if you touch a hot object, so what is your immediate reaction? You immediately withdraw your hand from the hot object. So, withdrawing your hand from the hot object is called the response shown by the living organism, or here in this case that is the response shown by us. Next is receptor. What is receptor? Students, you might have studied regarding these receptors in your 9th class when you are studying the chapter sense organs. We have different receptors present in the different sense organs. So, what is a receptor? Receptor is a specialized cell that is highly sensitive to stimulus. So, it can detect any slight changes. So, that is called the receptor. Usually, the receptors present in our sense organs. You have studied regarding photoreceptors, touch receptors, pain receptors, pressure receptors, auditory receptors, olfactory receptors. So, all these come under different receptors. The last one is effector. What is effector? Effector is usually a muscle or an organ or any gland of our body that shows a response to the stimulus as received instructions from the central nervous system, mostly from the brain. So, effector is a part of our body which actually shows the response. For example, when you touch a hot object, you immediately withdraw your hand. So, here the hand is showing the reaction. You are taking your hand away from the hot object. So, what is the effector here? Our hand, the muscles that are present in our hand are the effectors. So, as the instructions received from the brain, so the muscles present in the hand show an appropriate action, and the hand or the muscles in our hand are called effectors. There is an activity 1, holding a falling stick. So, if you observe this activity 1, there is a sequence of events that occur between a response and stimulus. Now, let us try to know the sequence of events that occur between a response and stimulus. So, this is the flow chart showing the sequence of events that occur between the stimulus and the response. So, the stimulus, the slight change is detected by the receptors present in the sense organs. Immediately that information is transmitted. So, transfer of information to the nervous system, where the information is analyzed or processed, and after processing the information, an appropriate message or order is released from the central nervous system to an appropriate target effector, and that effector shows an appropriate response. So, these are the sequence of events that occur between stimuli and response. So, the detection of stimuli, that is changes, transmission of information and processing of the information in the brain usually, and after that an appropriate response is shown by the living organism by the effectors. Now, students, this is a detailed flow chart or block diagram showing the events. So, stimulus, change that occurs in and around the body. The receptors present on sense organs detect this change. With the help of receptors, that information is transmitted or transferred to the central nervous system through nerves. So, here nerves play an important role in transmitting the information from the sense organs to the central nervous system. Once the information is transmitted to the central nervous system, here the processing or the analyzing of the information takes place. After analyzing, again the central nervous system, usually brain, reacts and gives orders through motor nerves in the form of motor information to the effectors, usually muscles or glands. So, as per the instructions or messages received by the effectors given from the brain, so they show an appropriate response. So, these are the sequence of events that are seen between stimulus and response. Now, students, look at this picture. This is the picture of a scientist called Galen, a Greek physiologist of period AD 129 to 200. So, earlier Greeks believed that all the functions of our body were controlled by the brain. So, Greeks believed that all of our actions are controlled by the brain, but how the brain controls all these actions remained unknown. Later, by his experiments, Galen concluded that there were two kinds of nerves in our body, and with the help of these two kinds of nerves, the brain used to control the actions of our body, and the two kinds of nerves are those of sensation and those of action. Students, let us know the structure of nerve cell. What is a nerve cell? The nerve cell is also commonly called as neuron. Students, you have studied regarding this nerve cell in your 9th class in the chapter animal tissues. That is, in the nervous tissue, you have studied about the nerve cell or neuron. Let us see the picture of neuron. A typical neuron consists of two distinct parts. So, this part of neuron is called as cell body or cyton, which shows short or small processes like branches. So, these branches which arise from the cell body are called as dendrites. These are very fine and short processes, and there is a long cylindrical narrow branch which is usually longer, arises from one end of the cell body, okay, which is usually longer. So, this branch is called as axon. So, this is called axon, and the axon ends with again a small processes called axon terminals. So, these are called axon terminals. Now, the axon here in this picture shows, or it is wrapped by a sheath. So, the sheath which wraps or which surrounds the axon is called as myelin sheath. Myelin sheath is a specialized fatty insulating sheath that is produced by the Schwann cells. So, this is the myelin sheath, and the cells here with orange colored spots are called as Schwann cells, which produce this myelin sheath. Students, if you see, the myelin sheath which is wrapping or surrounding the axon is not continuous, it is interrupted at regular intervals. So, here we see microscopic gaps where the myelin sheath is interrupted. So, these points are called as node of Ranvier. So, these are the points where the myelin sheath is interrupted, which are called nodes of Ranvier. Nerve cell is a specialized cell which is meant to transmit the information from the receptors to the central nervous system. Here in the nervous system, a neuron or nerve cell is considered as the basic structural and functional unit, is the structural and functional unit of nervous system. Now, students, based on the presence and absence of myelin sheath over the axon, the neurons are distinguished or classified into two types. One is myelinated neurons, another one is non-myelinated neurons. If you look at this picture, you can clearly observe. So, here these are the two neurons. This one is myelinated and this one is non-myelinated. So, this is the axon and these are called myelin sheaths that traps or surrounds the axon. So, the axons which are surrounded by myelin sheath, such neurons are called as myelinated neurons, and the axons without myelin sheath, such neurons are called as non-myelinated neurons. The myelin sheath is a fatty insulating layer. Now, what is synapse? So, synapse is the connecting point or the connecting region between two neurons. So, this is the place where the axon terminals of one neuron connects with the dendrites of another neuron, or sometimes the dendrites of one neuron are connected with dendrites of another neuron. So, that connecting region, that space, that particular place is called as synapse. So, synapse is considered as the structural gap and functional region. So, this is the place where two neurons connect with one another. Students, it is not like that they are physically connected with one another. Though in the synapse two neurons connect with one another, there is no protoplasmic process which physically connect the two neurons. It means the two neurons never come in contact directly with one another. Yet there is a microscopic gap between two neurons, yet the information is transferred from one neuron to another neuron either electrically or chemically or sometimes by both. So, this is the place where two neurons unite with one another called as synapse or synaptic junction. So, this is a closure view of synaptic junction. Now, students, the nerve cells or the neurons are further distinguished into three more types based on their functioning. So, according to function, the neurons are classified into three types. The first one is efferent neurons, the second one is association neurons, and the third one is efferent neurons. Efferent neurons are also called as motor neurons. The association neurons are called as mixed neurons or interneurons, and the efferent neurons are called as sensory neurons. Let us try to differentiate between these two structurally. So, in the efferent neurons, if you see, the location of the cell body is at one end and usually the length of the axon is very long. Coming to the association neurons, the location of the cell body is at the center and the length of the axon is a constant. Coming to the efferent neurons, the location of the cell body is at the center and the length of the axon is very short. So, functionally the neurons are of three types: efferent, association, efferent. So, what does these efferent neurons do? They send information from brain to the effectors. So, the information is transmitted from the brain towards the effectors or the target organs, whereas efferent neurons are the neurons which transmit the information from the sense organs towards the brain. From the sense organs, the information is transmitted towards the brain. Such neurons are called as efferent or sensory, whereas association neurons are the neurons which transmit the information in both the directions, that is to and from the brain. So, this is the pathway which shows the transmission of information to and from the brain. So, efferent nerves always transmit the information from sense organs towards the brain or spinal cord. So, these arrow marks indicate the direction in which the transmission of information takes place in the efferent nerves. And efferent nerves, so the arrow mark clearly indicates from the central nervous system, that is brain and spinal cord, the information is transmitted towards the muscles or the effector organs, and in between the association neurons or nerves are present, where we see the transmission of information in both the directions. So, here the two arrows indicate the transmission of information to and from the brain. Students, what is a reflex action? Is a sudden, instantaneous or spontaneous, irreversible, involuntary action. Whenever we come across certain emergency situations or danger situations which might do harm to the living organism. So, we immediately or we spontaneously react. So, such kind of reactions is shown by the living organisms whenever they are in danger. So, such instantaneous, sudden, involuntary, because the reflex actions we do not have control, we do not have a conscious effort, even we do not think of doing such actions. So, even without thinking, these actions are performed. So, all such actions are called as reflex actions. For example, if you see here, when you touch a hot object, you immediately withdraw your hand. Withdrawing your hand does not involve thinking from the brain. So, even our brain is not involved, because here thinking is not required. So, immediately we take our hand away from the hot object, because if you continuously touch the hot object, it will damage the skin, it might do harm to our body part. So, instantaneously, suddenly we remove our hand even without thinking, even without that conscious. Okay. So, such actions are called as reflex actions. Now, let us see the flow chart behind the mechanism of reflex action. So, students, if you see this picture, this is the flow chart showing the reflex action. So, receptors present on sense organs pick up the information that is sent to spinal cord. In normal situation, the information from the spinal cord is sent towards the brain for the processing, but here during reflex actions, the spinal cord itself make the decisions, though the information is transmitted to the brain, but no involvement of brain during reflex action, because the spinal cord itself will make the decision, because even this makes a delay or reacting which might harm to the living organism. So, the spinal cord itself will make the decision and they are sent to the effectors, and the effectors will show an appropriate action. So, that is called reflex action. So, receptor, spinal cord, effector. So, here the nerves which are involved as efferent, which bring information from the receptors to the spinal cord, and from the spinal cord to the effectors, the information is carried by the efferent or motor nerves. Now, in the activity 3, we have knee jerk reflex. So, the knee jerk reflex is also an example, classical example of reflex action. So, whenever the skin below the kneecap is strongly hit by a rubber hammer, so our thigh muscles vigorously move, they show movement. So, this is a good example of knee jerk reflex. So, the same events that we have studied earlier are shown here. So, here the spinal cord will make the decisions in the knee jerk reflex. Now, reflex action and reflex. So, this is the skin, and the receptors present in the skin collect the information or pick up the information, sensory information that is transmitted to the spinal cord by efferent nerve. Immediately the spinal cord will deliver the motor information to the muscles, that is effectors, through efferent nerves. So, this is the pathway shown or involved in the reflex action. So, the pathway involved in the reflex action. So, such pathway is called as reflex arc. So, what is reflex arc? The pathway through which the transmission of information occurs for a reflex action, it is called reflex arc. Now, let us differentiate between voluntary actions and involuntary actions. This is a slide showing the differences between voluntary actions and involuntary actions. So, voluntary actions are the actions which are under our conscious effort or under our control, like walking, reading, speaking, writing. So, here all these examples which I have given are the actions that are under our control. So, all such actions are called as voluntary actions. If you want to walk, you will walk, otherwise you will stand, isn't it? So, these are called voluntary actions, and the actions which are not under our control are called as involuntary actions. So, without our conscious effort, so these actions occur in our body. So, such actions are called as involuntary actions. We cannot control our heartbeat, even we cannot control the peristaltic movements of our digestive tract, even we cannot control our respiration. So, all these occur unconsciously without our control. So, these are examples for involuntary actions. So, students, now can you tell me the reflex action comes under either voluntary or involuntary? Yes, reflex action is a good example for involuntary, because without our conscious effort that action is performed. Now, coming to the human nervous system. The human nervous system is divided into two components, central nervous system, peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is further divided into autonomous nervous system and somatic nervous system. The autonomous nervous system is again divided into two subdivisions called sympathetic subdivision and parasympathetic subdivision. Let us go each one in detail. Coming to the central nervous system. Central nervous system consists of two important organs. One is brain, another one is spinal cord. So, here this is brain and the continuation of brain, tail like part, it is the continuation of brain, this is called spinal cord. So, both brain and spinal cord are very important organs of our body which come under central nervous system. Students, if you look at this video, this clearly shows the central nervous system of our body which includes brain and spinal cord. So, this is the brain and from the brain a tail like part which extends into the vertebral column. So, that is spinal cord. So, this part is spinal cord and this is brain. Both brain and spinal cord come under central nervous system. So, this is the brain which shows different parts. So, there are different parts. So, this part of brain is called cerebrum and this is called as cerebellum and this is called medulla oblongata. So, students, look at this picture, this shows the brain. So, brain is commonly called as the living supercomputer. Human brain is highly complex organ containing over 100 billion neurons. It is commonly called as a command control center of all of our actions are under the control of brain, hence it is called the controlling center of our body. So, this is the picture showing the brain. So, see on the surface of the brain we see many foldings. So, human brain is the largest of all animals with reference to body weight and brain size. If you see to the body size and brain size, so we human beings have the largest brain, hence we are so intelligent or are comparatively with other animals. The brain weight, approximately brain weighs around 1400 grams. In both the sexes, if you take in males it is around 1375 grams and in females it is 1275 grams. Where does this brain situated or located? So, this is the picture showing the skull. This is the skull where our brain is lodged inside the skull. So, this space is called as cranial cavity or cranium in which the brain is situated. The brain is enclosed in a bony box called cranium. What we have learned in this session? So, we have discussed about the coordinating systems. There are two coordinating systems in our human body. One is nervous system, another one is endocrine system, and the responses shown by the nervous system and the reflex actions, voluntary and involuntary actions. What is the difference between voluntary and involuntary? The human nervous system which is divided into central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. We have discussed what is central nervous system which includes brain and spinal cord. We have gone through the structure of different parts of the brain, that is forebrain, midbrain, hindbrain. We have also seen the nerve cell structure and types and synapse. For your assessment, distinguish between stimulus, response, efferent and efferent nerves, central nervous system and peripheral nervous system, receptor, effector, what is synapse, draw a neatly labeled diagram of brain. Students, let us know the functions of various parts of the brain in another session. Thank you.